For you to get anything in life, you have to have a desire. And it is that desire that will steer you to go ahead and do whatever it takes to get it done. This money, I will make it. Or this sickness, I'm going to beat it. This marriage, it has to work. If you don't have that intention, then you're not going to be. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Zummie, and today we're going to be continuing our Bible study series on the book of Genesis. And we're going to be focusing on Genesis chapter 1, verses 4 to 10. And why this Bible study series is different from a lot of other Bible study videos that are out there is because I see the Bible as a book of principles that teaches us not only what God can do, but more importantly, what God can do through us, not in terms of miracles, but for the fact that we as believers carry God in us, how awesomely He can use us to, effect positive change in our societies. And I think that's something that is missing in our lives as Christians. Majority of Christians can agree with me that there's that sense of fruitlessness. The world looks down on Christianity because we are always focused on what God out there can do. And we're all looking at Him. But the things that we can do, we don't really have a clue to that. So that's what this Bible study series is all about. I'll highly encourage you to stick with me to the end of today's video because I can assure you that God will open your eyes to lots of insights that you can apply to different areas of your life that you might have been feeling stuck in until this moment. And I also want to encourage you to click the subscribe button if you find this kind of content, interesting. So I'll just go straight to today's topic. Genesis chapter 1 verse 4 to 10, and it says, "And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Then God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Thus God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Then God said, Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together in one place, and let dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters He called seas. And God saw that it was good." So we're going to delve right into what we can learn from these verses, right? So it's basically telling us about, when God started creation. And if you've not watched the first part of this series, I would highly recommend you watch it. But last time we talked about the fact that when there was chaos all over the place, when God created the heavens and the earth, there was a lot of chaos and all that. And after everything that God did, He said, "Let there be light." So when this light now appeared, that is where we are continuing from. So when God said, in the midst of the darkness that was covering everywhere, and God said, "Let there be light," what does light do? I want you to consider entering into a dark room. You've never been in this room before. You're going to be stumbling all over the place. You're going to hit your toes, stub your toes against something, right? What I'm trying to say is this: whenever you are in a chaotic situation in your life, what you need to look for is light. And when we talk about light, we see that light brings insight. Light brings information. Light brings knowledge. And this when you have light, when you have insight, when you have clarity, it helps you to separate between what is right and what is wrong, what is broken and what is okay. And for the things that are broken, it can also show you what possible solutions exist, right? So that is what we need to think about. When you are in a dark place in your life, don't give in to discouragement. Don't get involved in a pity party. You're like, "Oh my God, this is just what is happening to me." No, that's not what we do. We begin to seek light. We begin to seek insight. So let's say, for example, someone gets a diagnosis of, "Hey, unfortunately, you have this sickness, you have this disease." The first instinct, obviously, everyone is going to freak out. But apart from that, once you get through that initial stage, I highly recommend that you go ahead and look into whatever information is out there concerning that thing. And you begin to look out for people that have already found ways to manage it and even beat it. Try to connect with such people. Because when you do that, you don't just see that issue as something that is looming so big like a giant mountain. You begin to see, yes, this is what I'm up against. And this is how the information that is out there already, this is how others are managing it. And then you can be able to streamline and come down to, this is how I will manage it. And that is how we solve problems, right? So how does light come? Light comes through seeking. or true intention, because God just said, let there be light. So this talks about a desire. This talks about an intention. God wanted light to manifest. There's somewhere in the Bible that it says that through desire, a man seeks and intermeddles with all wisdom. What light means for us in this issue, in this instance, is this: for you to get anything in life, you have to have a desire. And it is that desire that will steer you to go ahead and do whatever it takes to get it done, right? So let's say you want to get wealthy and you're just saying, oh, one of these days, I know by God's grace, I'm going to get rich, I'm going to get wealthy. But you're not really making any effort. You don't really believe in yourself that you have what it takes. You don't believe that is a possibility for you. You've not looked into it and said, this money, I will make it. Or, this sickness, I'm going to beat it. This marriage, it has to work. If you don't have that intention, then you're not going to be inspired to go out there and do whatever it takes. So what this teaches me is this: because God that had that intention, he wanted clarity. He said, let there be light. So in the same way, just like that Bible verse says, if you really want change in that situation that you're faced with right now, you need to look inwards and convince yourself, come to the place where I want this. This really needs to happen. And when you come to that place of intention is very powerful. Desire is very powerful. It will push you to do whatever it takes to get that thing done. And that's another thing that we can learn from this Bible portion. Then another thing that Bible says there also is that God separated the light from the darkness. It is very important for us to separate light from darkness in whatever situation you find yourself. What do I mean by that? Generally, as humans, when we get into overwhelming situations, what makes it very overwhelming is when everything is muddled up. You just know that, for example, my marriage is just not working. I don't know, I've tried. How can we help you? I don't know, I've tried. When you have that mindset, you can't really do much. So there's the need to separate between darkness and light. Call a spade a spade. When you see darkness, call it darkness. Take responsibility for what role you have played. For example, let's say in marriage that is getting ready to break up, you take responsibility and say, this is not good, and this is the role I have played. This is the role my partner has played. Then you'll be able to take ownership of what has been done, and what you begin to understand what you really need to do. And sometimes a lot of things that we're dilly-dallying about, we can actually fix it by calling a spade, by calling darkness, and calling light. So another example, let's say your finances are in poor shape. You don't make excuses for it. Outline the poor choices that you've made, all the darkness that has come into your finance to make it what it is. And then list or brainstorm possible strategies for adjustment. And this side will be the light, right? So on one side, you have the darkness. On one side, you have what you can do to fix that darkness. So that's another thing that we can take from there. Then another point, I don't know whether this is the third or fourth. So no matter how bad things get, something good can be created from them. That is a mindset that you need to have. You need to cultivate. It's something that needs to be cultivated. It doesn't come naturally to us as fallen humans. We need to develop a mindset of what good can come out of this bad situation. That's the mindset you need to have. So in essence, the way we can make something good out of something bad is to rename it, is to change the way we look at it. So if one has a problem and you call it a problem that is insurmountable, that's what it remains. So like I said, for example, God created day and night from darkness and light. So night especially was a bad thing. When you say night, powers of darkness, this, that, night is associated with, darkness is associated with something bad. But God turned that darkness he gave it another name. He gave it the name night. And if we look at it, night seems like better. Good night. It's time to go to bed. It's time to rejuvenate. It's time to go home from the labors of the day and go reconnect with your family. So in the same way, when you change the way you look at your situation, it actually changes the way you react to it. Another example of this, God made seas from the floods. Bible said that there were floods and the waters covered everywhere. But God now said, I'm going to change this name flood. When you think flood, you're thinking of water carrying everything away. But he said, I'm going to change the name to seas. And when you think of seas, you're thinking about the ocean filled with sea creatures, beautiful things, dolphins and all whatnot. So that is another example. Now, Let me just say this. If you're finding value in what we're talking about, please click that subscribe button so that you don't forget. There is so much we can learn from this. I know I'm all over the place, but I know that you will definitely get benefit from this if you think about it and apply it in your life. So now, having talked about how God renamed things in his mind, he changed the way he looked at them. I want us to look at examples in today, real life today, where people have changed the way they looked at things, where people have renamed things, bad situations, and made them something really good. So some examples are as follows. We all know about the movement against drunk driving, right? It was birthed out of families that lost their loved ones to death, right, through driving while drunk. So whatever MAD is doing, or the movement against drunk driving is doing out there, is helping to educate people about the risks of driving under influence of alcohol and all whatnot, right? So these people, they could have dwelt in their pain and keep crying and weeping and do nothing about it. But they have decided, no, we're going to make this person cannot go for nothing. We're going to make something good out of it. And that's one thing I can ask you. What good can you do, make out of whatever pain you've gone through? So another example is, there are so many stories on Instagram and all that of people, survivors of, human trafficking, child marriage, and, all manner of really horrible traumas that have risen to fight for others and give them a chance, get the word out there. These things are happening. Can you help the people? So if they had just dwelt in their shame and in their pain and did nothing about it, then their suffering would be for nothing. Another example is Nick Vujicic. I don't believe I'm pronouncing the name correctly, but basically he was born without arms and legs, right? He was born without limbs. But today he's known and celebrated because he and his parents harnessed this situation of his life, he being born without limbs, to be an inspiration to many others with that condition and even other conditions. Like sometimes when you look at yourself, you are okay, and you're like, if this person can do it, then I can. Then other people too that had similar situations, like anatomy like him, can look and say, man, if he can do it, then I can do it. Parents that have those children will be like, all hope is not lost. So that is turning something, renaming that limbless, being born limbless, into something, calling it opportunity, calling it greatness, right? So one more example. So if we look at many multi-billion-dollar businesses out there, they are built based on the structure of providing solutions to different kinds of problems. So in the same way, your biggest problem, your biggest trauma, your biggest pain, your biggest shame can turn into something really amazing, something extraordinary in terms of you monetizing it. Everything is not all about money, but you can use it to inspire people, to give hope to those that are hopeless. So my call to action for us today, for today's video, is this. What chaos is troubling your life today? I will encourage you to go back to the principles we've talked about today. The principle of seeking light. Don't just give in to self-pity. Look for light to find out what information is out there that you can use to resolve your issues. That's number one. Number two, build intention, develop desire, because it is only when you believe in yourself that it is possible, even though you've not started, you believe that it is possible. That's only when it will be possible. Then number three is call a spade a spade. Take responsibility for what you need to take responsibility for. Don't make excuses for whatever situation. Don't say it's my ancestors, if this thing hadn't happened, if he hadn't done this to me, if she hadn't done that to me. Then the fourth one we talked about is renaming your situation. Build and cultivate the mindset that something good can come out of anything. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that you're going to be without pain. You're not going to have those tears. You will still cry, but let your tears, let your tragedy, let that pain be the birth. Let it birth something that will be a legacy for you, so that your pain and your suffering will not be in vain. So that's it. So plug in, take whatever situation that is chaotic in your life right now. Is it broken? A marriage that is getting broken up? Is it your finances? Is it your career? Whatever it is, plug it into these, plug them into these principles, and see how you can customize it to resolve your own issue. So these tips I've shared, obviously, is not something that happens overnight, but these are all examples in our real life, so you know that it is possible. It's just that it takes time. You just need to dedicate yourself to this, commit yourself to it, and say, I believe this and I know it is possible. God helping me, I'll do it one step at a time. No matter how many times I fall, I will rise again. And so that's just it. And like I said, these principles, they don't just work for Christians. They are life principles. They work for anybody. Bible says that the rain falls on the good and the bad, and the sun shines on the just and the unjust. God doesn't, he's not, he is not biased. He just does what he has these principles. So you just need to plug into it. Many people that are not Christians are using these principles, and some of us might be wondering why. Where is God? Your children are suffering, but the people that don't even know you are enjoying. They are just following some of these principles. So I'll just leave today's video at this. And once again, don't forget to subscribe if you found value in this, so that you can be able to keep following up with other insights we're going to share on this series and many more other awesome content that I share. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye.